Good afternoon, everyone. We're gonna call the meeting to order. We're gonna start with interviews and appointments. So Anne Marie, could I start with a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Kemp.
Here.
Councilmember Whalen.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Orgel.
Here.
Mayor Renati.
Here. And so, as in our last round of recruitments, we did not have enough applicants for the Environmental and Sustainability Committee. This time we have a lot of applicants, which is a really good thing. And so what we'll do is we'll have each person come forward and give, a statement describing their interest in the committee. We'll keep it to 1.5 minutes, and then any council members can ask questions. And then after that, we'll take public comment and vote for our choices for the committee. So unless there's any questions from the dais, Anne Marie, I'll turn it over to you to call up the applicants.
And I will just note that if you have a preference of a 1-year term or a 2-year term, you can mention that because we have 4 2-year terms and 1 1-year term. So if there's one person that just really only wants a 1 year, the council might consider that. Douglas Alsop was unable to attend. He did submit a statement. Hopefully you guys all were able to read that. So our first candidate is Yashar Amin. Is Yashar here? Come on up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yashar Amin. It's a privilege to be up here to discuss my interest in the Environmental and Sustainability Committee. I've lived in Laguna for approximately 8 years. I actually was on the Recreation Committee from 2022 to 2024. Really enjoyed that experience. It's a great way to get involved. And after looking at some other committees, given my background and given my interests, this is a committee that I'm very much interested in. By way of background, I went to school locally here at UC Irvine, have a bachelor's in environmental analysis and design. Led me to a career in real estate investment. Ultimately went to graduate school at Columbia University. I have a master's in real estate development from the School of Architecture, Preservation, and Planning, where I did my thesis on double bottom line investment funds, so focused on doing well while doing good. And since then, I've navigated a background both in real estate and as an owner of a energy investment company of how to navigate doing good, but also finding a way to make it financially feasible. And that includes affordable housing, renewables, energy efficiency. And I'd love to bring that experience to bear to the city.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions?
Do you prefer a 1-year term or a 2-year term?
I don't have a preference.
Okay.
Good. Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Is Alexandra Farah here?
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandra Farah. Go by Alex. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to the community. A big reason why I'm here today is because I would love to see a more resilient community here in Laguna Beach. We're already doing so much, thanks to you guys. But I am currently a student at Cal Poly Pomona, where I'm getting my Master's of Regenerative Studies and Sustainability in the Environmental Design School. And I would love to put what I'm learning into practice. I'm taking classes like Nature's Model and Sustainable Cities. Doing my thesis on the circular economy, and I would love to implement some of those practices here in Laguna Beach. I've worked for the USGBC, the U.S. Green Building Council, where I've done grant research and ESG reporting and wildfire prevention training. And I personally, my boyfriend's family suffered from the 2005 landslides, and I would love for Laguna Beach, I would love to help Laguna Beach be more proactive than reactive in a lot of the climate initiatives that we're doing here. And I'm just very excited by this opportunity. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
And I have no preference.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Good. Well, appreciate you applying.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bianca?
Hello, everyone. I'm Bianca Garthy. Thank you so much, first of all, for having us. Thank you for everyone joining and attending here because this is a great turnout to see who is really caring about what sustainability will look like in Laguna Beach. As for me, this is my first kind of foray into this. I would have loved to have taken regenerative design and farming back when I was coming up. Instead, I went into healthcare. But I went into healthcare not only as the direct to provider, but I saw a system that was sick. And so I went into the business side. But all of that took me through public health, through advocating for telehealth, that also went into learning how our healthcare system works and what matters. And what I come to today that really inspired me to sign up and be here is because I see healthcare and health, the health of our individual bodies and communities, the health of our residents, is part of the sustainability equation. It's part of the designing of buildings and affordable housing. It's looking at the soil. I live in South Laguna, near that little community plot. I am inspired by them because what I see when I go by there is I see kids connecting with the land. I see parents, I see adults remembering what it's like to actually care about what food you eat and just those little things. But that's just one small item. I see the healthcare equation in the sustainability committee being something that either perhaps I hadn't seen before, I haven't been overlooked, but it's a significant opportunity that I'd like to present to the committee. So thank you so much for having me here, and thank you for this. Take care.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Kalani?
Hello, council members. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Kalani G. I'm a lifelong Laguna Beach resident, and like all of you in this room, I'm sure I care deeply about our local environment and how we interact with it as a community. My love for the local ecosystems and drive to pursue a career in sustainability developed just up the hill at Laguna Beach High School. I had the opportunity to serve as a teacher's assistant for marine ecology, lead tide pool expeditions around Heisler Park, and work on a chemistry project researching how to eliminate chemical runoff into our oceans. This was just the beginning for me, and it kickstarted my desire to lead a lasting impact on the environment, especially in Laguna Beach. I went on to earn a degree in environmental studies at the University of Washington, where I specialized in environmental health and justice, microplastics and packaging, and corporate sustainability. Through this environmental program, I served as a sustainability consultant for Nordstrom, calculating greenhouse gas emissions, interned at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and studied sustainable water systems and sea level rise infrastructure in Italy. I can think of no better way to serve my community than to contribute my education, experience, and ideas to this committee. If given the opportunity, I will share my expertise in climate change, water systems, public outreach, emissions, and more. I'm eager to advise the council on how we can protect our natural environment and uphold the climate action plan. I'm deeply invested in the health of the land and the waters that raised me, and I appreciate the opportunity to give back to the city of Laguna Beach. Thank you so much. No preference also.
Thank you. Any questions? No, thank you for applying.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.
Leah Jacobson?
Hi, my name is Leah Jacobson, and I've lived in Laguna since 2021. I believe the most important issues facing our city today are ones that pertain to the safety of the community, namely the ocean cleanliness, the threat of fires, and climate change, and how it affects us all. I have a 20-year career in marketing and PR, which I think will support other members that lack the business public relations aspect, which I think is vital to convey the importance of the Environmental First organization and getting the word out about everything the committee is doing and initiatives and work accomplished. Additionally, I work remotely. I don't have children or a spouse, therefore I do have the time to commit to this committee. In addition to a commitment to being open and available to work across committees to help ensure working together on the best behalf of the best interests of the city. I'm flexible, work well with others, and I'm a hard worker. And that's it. Oh, any questions?
Thank you. Any questions?
No preference.
Good.
So Tiffany Curry had withdrawn her application.
Okay. Oh, she did. Okay.
Yeah, she did today. Emma?
Hello, nice to meet you all. My name is Emma Cuffle, and I think I could bring a uniquely well-rounded perspective to the Environmental Sustainability Committee. My experience covers really all of our stakeholders. I previously worked with the city of Laguna Beach in the Public Works Department, so implementing organics recycling under Senate Bill 1383, connecting excess food from the Laguna Food Pantry to people in need, increasing waste diversion through construction and demolition recycling, and coordinating green businesses for certification. And from there, I became an environmental consultant and really continued that work for other cities across Orange County, including Irvine, Buena Park, and Santa Ana. And I'm currently in a corporate role. So I'm the Global Sustainability Manager for Monster Energy. So really cover everything across the wastewater energy nexus, established our water stewardship policy, and really just coordinate all our environmental compliance. So follow all regulations. And I'm also an adjunct professor at Irvine Valley College, and I teach business case for sustainability. So really encouraging the future and hoping that we get more kindred spirits like the folks in here. So I'm very passionate, and as the most important stakeholder, I'm a resident of Laguna Beach and self-proclaimed Lagunatic. So very happy to live here and support our environment. And I think the common theme in all my work is just really resilience and climate proofing our city, as we've seen with the recent fires, and how do we encourage our C&D regulations to make sure that we're continuing safe housing and a safe environment. So, thanks. And no preference.
Okay. I have a question. So was the recycling assistant job, was that a full-time job at the
It
city
was
of Laguna
part-time
Beach?
when I
A
worked with the
part-time
city
job.
under
Okay.
Liz Avila.
Got it.
Wonderful Liz.
So do you probably have ideas from that work about how we could even improve our food recovery and our organics?
Definitely.
Okay.
Many ideas, even when it comes to plastic waste as well, even beyond the organics recycling. Because I know we kind of snuck in the thicker plastic bags as sneaking in at the end. So EPR, SB 1383, all those, SB 54.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Meg Sanquist?
Hi, council members and city staff. It's really wonderful to be here. My name is Meg Sandquist, and I'm inspired to be here actually by my dear friend and your fellow council member, Hallie Jones, who's also my sister. I'm so heartened to see so much interest here in the Environmental Sustainability Committee. I have, like Hallie, born and raised here in Laguna, and have always been interested in the natural world, but they didn't have a sustainability major when I was in college, so I'm really jealous of Alex's classes, and like Bianca, you know, I would have loved to take Kalani's microplastics course, or maybe I have you two confused, but anyway, it's pretty awesome. My career is really centered around science education. So I've worked for several of the nonprofits here in town, including the Pacific Marine Mammal Center, Ocean Institute, and also Laguna Canyon Foundation, surprisingly. So, but most recently, I've been a grant and proposal writer for I've done a lot of transportation emissions grant work, so I'm real familiar with the California policies around heavy-duty transportation, and familiar with some of the challenges that cities and counties face as you're decarbonizing fleets. I'm currently working for an environmental engineering firm that does a lot of carbon accounting, and that's where I got interested in climate action planning and climate resilience. So I'm thrilled to be here and be honored to serve the city however I can if my skill set's a match here. So thank you. Happy to take any questions or and I don't have a preference. So
Thank you. Any
Okay.
questions?
any questions?
Yeah.
You are not a very inquisitive bunch. I'm just going to point that out. Thank you.
Richard Swinson.
Good evening, Council. My parents moved our family to Laguna Beach in summer of 1993, and I had just started kindergarten at El Morro when the Laguna Beach fire broke out in October. Life in the city was turned upside down, as you can imagine. We evacuated for nearly a week. Half of my friends lost their homes, sadly. I'll never forget the flames pouring over the house above us. And more recently, the same thing happened to us a couple years ago during the Emerald Bay fire. So it's kind of a flashback. But more recently in January, half of my friends in Los Angeles were evacuated, and many of them lost their homes. These experiences have heavily influenced my interest in environmental conservation, protecting our community from fire and drought specifically. I'm involved with a microbiome startup that has developed a novel device which transforms everyday food scraps and yard trimmings into a kind of soil superfood, as you can see here. Basically, a tennis court-sized machine produces 100 tons of this product per day using just ordinary food and yard scraps. This concentrated mixture is effective when mixed with water at a ratio of 10:1, so it's very potent. We have a robust data from a 4-month-long engagement at an organic waste processing facility in Oxnard showing the product's effectiveness at repairing the soil and processing organic waste. With improved water retention for plants requiring less water, leading to a more fire-resistant ecosystem. The product also removes harmful elements like pesticides and petrochemicals from the soil, which would potentially improve the runoff and hopefully save our city some money by cutting the need to import expensive fertilizers and composts as mandated by law. So we could potentially process our own food scraps and create this stuff which might also be able to help us prevent fires in the future. With my tech and entrepreneurial background and as a committed local resident, I'm eager to bring these insights to the Environmental Committee. Thank you for your time and no preference.
Thank you. Any questions? No.
Thanks.
So Caleb also withdrew his application shortly before this meeting. So I've gone ahead and activated your poll, so everyone should see it. Councilmember Whalen, if your computer went off, is it on? Okay, good.
Let me just first ask, is there any public comment on this item? No, we're going to close public comment. We're going to vote. Very tough decisions.
I'm going to recuse myself from the 5th seat, just given my sister's application. So I'll only be voting for 4 candidates. I think that's the cleanest way for me to do this.
Okay.
Did that mess up our system, Anne Marie?
Have the rest of you voted for 5? Because I'm showing 22. All right, there we go. All right, yay, we got it done with one vote. So those that are going to be serving the 2-year terms are Emma, Alex, Meg, and Yashar. And then Kalani, you will be serving the 1-year term. Emma and Alex, you got unanimous, all 5. Meg and Yashar, you got 4. And then Kalani got 3. And the recap will post all their votes because I don't want to read them all right now. Is that okay, Megan? Or should I read them?
Can you read them? Because
I'll
I'm not
read-
technically
see,
allowed.
I asked
Sorry.
the city attorney. Gosh. Okay. So as I said, Alex and Emma got 5, so I at least don't have to read those. Bianca, Councilmember Kemp, voted for you. Emma, you were unanimous. Kalani, Councilmember Whalen, Kemp, and Jones. Leah, Mayor Renagi. Meg, Councilmember Whalen, Orgill, and Mayor Renagi, and Councilmember Kemp. Richard, Mayor Pro Tem Orgill. Yashar, Councilmember Jones, Orgill, Whalen, and Mayor Renagi.
Yeah, congratulations. These are honestly some of the hardest votes that we have to take because we're so lucky to have so many qualified applicants for these committees. So I hope that if you didn't get appointed this time, that there's no reason why you can't get involved with the committee and also consider reapplying. So appreciate everyone for taking the time to be here and looking forward to working with you all on sustainability. So thank you. Okay, good. So we're gonna I believe adjourn to a study session. Let me get on track here. So we're going to adjourn from the interviews and appointments to the study session, and then Anne Marie, you'll do another roll call for the study session. And this study session will focus on the review of our existing CIP. I'm waiting for Anne Marie. You'll get your chance later tonight. So Anne Marie, let's do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Jones?
Ellie.
Is that roll call?
It's roll
I'm
call.
here.
Councilmember Kim?
I'm still here.
Councilmember Whalen?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Orgill?
Here.
Mayor Renagi?
Here. Okay, so Dave, do you want to kick this off? How should we proceed, and how do you see the next 23 minutes going forward in the most productive way?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Mark and Tom are going to do the presentation from here. You have information in your packet as well as the presentation that's pending. What we're hoping for at the end is some consensus to bring back an action item in our mid-year budget amendment adjustments, which would be coming forth on March 11th, that kind of memorialize what your discussion is today. So with that, I'll hand it over to Mark and Tom.
All right, allow us to get the PowerPoint shared here.
They were waiting on me.
I didn't say that, but all right. So this study session, as Dave mentioned, a review of our existing capital improvement program projects. So staff has gone through the existing capital improvement program. Sorry, we currently have 132 active projects currently with appropriations that staff is working on. We performed an in-depth review. We worked with finance also in that review, and basically we went project by project and determined whether a project is still active and we're working on it right now, or is that project complete? Was it, did we do a little bit of work, deem it infeasible at one point in the past? Was funding found elsewhere? Is it no longer needed? Should we reprioritize some of these projects? And basically, at the conclusion of that review, staff recommends that we close 50 of the existing 132 projects and return the funds from those projects back to the fund balance. So here's a list of the funds and the amount staff recommends in the agenda report to be returned to the balance. The total is slightly above $16 million, the majority of which is in the Capital Improvement Fund, Fund 616, but as well as Parking Authority, gas tax, street lighting, and wastewater funds. And on the attached spreadsheet, it would be the numbers in red are those numbers recommended to move back. And so we will go through some of the projects specifically that we're discussing. There is supplemental funding staff recommends for a few of the projects. The first one is it's actually I guess it would be the opposite. So it's a reduction in funding, but on the sidewalk improvements Coast Highway, this would be the sidewalk gap closures. Staff was successful last year in getting a $5 million federal grant on that project, which offsets the city's funds towards that project. We recommend reducing the project down, leaving enough funds in the project so that we could continue with design and move the project along, but construction would be funded by federal grant. There's some uncertainty on that, but we recommend that we don't tie up the 4.4 million in general fund at this time and move forward planning on the grant to fund that for construction. Two other projects we recommend adding funding at would be the Cleo Beach Access Improvement Project. It goes out to bid in about a month, and that project needs about $1 million to be fully funded based on the cost estimate. And then Fire Station 4 replacement, that goes before Planning Commission on March 19th. We have a slide coming up on that, but it's about 2.5 million short to be fully funded as well.
Mark, do you know the total funding requirement for the fire station?
Yeah, I have a slide coming up here
Okay.
in just a minute on that one.
Okay. Thanks.
This was a just more detailed slide on the Coast Highway sidewalk improvements, but I think I kind of already went through it.
Mark, can I just ask on that, on the federal grant, what's the timing? I mean, as you said, things are up in the air a bit. What's the timing on receipt of that?
So the federal grant is programmed in it's federal fiscal year 26, meaning we would be applying for those funds. You submit your funding request. It goes through Caltrans because they receive the funds from the feds and then pass them on to us. And it's a complicated process, but next spring, you basically you try to lock up the funds for construction before September 30th of 2026 for construction to occur in 2027. The project itself is, has a few, there's a few risks on it. It is a state highway we don't control. So we go through Caltrans on the permitting side. We're looking at the right-of-way requirements right now, whether we have enough room to get sidewalks in there. Right now we're still marching through all of those things. But that's the timing on it.
Mark, talk a little bit more about why you're confident in this grant, because we got preliminary notification otherwise.
So this was one we went through OCTA's call for projects for active transportation grant funding. And so it went through OCTA, it competed well, and we received the funds that way. It comes out of a federal funding, a portion of federal funds that isn't a risky source of funds that disappear when administrations change. There's always a risk when an administration changes, but it's through, I think it's RSTP or CMAQ. It's in that realm, which is pretty consistent over the last couple decades. And so things can happen for sure. And we don't recommend taking all the funds out of the project. We'll leave about $1 million in the project fund to take us all the way through design is what we're recommending.
But so it's we talked earlier, so it's a reimbursement situation, right?
Correct. And so these are the federal funds where you get approval, ultimate approval to start construction, and then you submit for reimbursement as you go. And generally, once you get approval for construction, they call it an E76 approval, it's locked in at that time. All the way up until that time, things can change. But it's a pretty safe pot of funds. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
And then this is an overview on the Cleo Street beach access improvements. It's one that's going to bid here. I said in a month, it's about a couple months, but we look to start construction after the summer, and it needs about $1 million to be fully funded. And then on Fire Station 4, this is the slide that shows kind of all the details on that. The current cost estimate for the project, 9.3 million or 9.38 million. It goes before Planning Commission for design review and coastal development permit on March 19th. We currently have the story poles up.
Right now.
They're going up this week. So if you head down Coast Highway, you'll see the outline of the proposed structure as currently envisioned. And so we're looking to finish design by the fall and be under construction before the year is out. Some key projects that we don't recommend setting aside a specific amount now as we're working through that, and some do need some city council direction. One is the downtown action plan. I have a slide on the next page. It lists some projects there. The Forest Promenade permanent conversion, the scope is being fully developed right now. We have a slide coming up on that. And then the EV charging stations, we recently presented to council up to about 3.3 million, which is pending the facility master plan. And then seismic improvements, I did get a question on this. Thank you, Alex. It originally had said seismic evaluation. That was the original scope that took us through the evaluation. The actual improvements themselves are delineated at about $11.5 million. On the downtown action plan, the draft document had listed 24 conceptual projects. There's about 1.1 million set aside in the current CIP, which we recommend leaving there. And council on 2 meetings just in the last month directed staff to come back with specific projects for Ocean, Beach, Coast Highway, between Ocean and Broadway, and the Forest Alley. We've walked the corridor with Dave and Mark and SWA, and SWA is generating an updated concept plan for those areas for us, and we'll have an idea on the costs needed for those projects as we develop that scope moving forward. So we recommend not deprogramming those funds at this time.
Mark, what's the timing on them coming back to us? Did they give us any indication?
We walked it with them, and they told us it'd take, what was it, about 4 weeks, I think they said, on delivering a concept for us. But we did need to get them under contract for that extra work.
Right.
And so we're working through those logistics right now. But they said about a month.
Okay, good.
And then we know that Forest Promenade's going before Planning Commission in April, which should identify the rest of the complete scope and the cost estimate, with final design this summer and bidding this fall. And so we can request the appropriation either as part of the CIP or later at that time. Right now, there's about 2.6 million set aside based on what was presented. That's probably not enough to fully fund that project. And on the EV charging stations, we did present this, the draft plan to you at a previous council meeting, and we'll be looking to issue the RFP for deployment of the charging infrastructure. We're continuing to pursue the SC Charge Ready program, and we will need to program in the CIP some funds to install these. And I believe the cost estimate was 3.3 million for all of it. So it is a future funding need.
So Mark, are these regular, these aren't superchargers, right? Are they regular, I don't know what the terminology is, but slow chargers?
Yeah, they have the level 2, they have the level 3 DC fast charging, and it's, I believe we went with level 2 mostly. I believe the report discussed kind of a mix and options. And so for the most part, it was level 2.
Okay.
And then at City Hall and fire stations 2 or 3, the tier 3 seismic analysis was completed on City Hall, fire stations 2 and 3. This is to do seismic upgrades to those facilities so they meet the definition of an essential facility. The construction costs identified, it's about $11.5 million. Funding has not been set aside for those projects yet, and it is somewhat contingent on facility master plan, which there are workshops coming up on that. So we haven't recommended reallocating funds to those projects yet. We're looking at the CIP to see what funding might be available and what years we should program those improvements in.
One of the things that I'm particularly concerned about up at Fire Station 3, right up top, is the and this has been through EDPC for some time, is the, emergency communications facilities that are up there that, I know the fire department's been working on it for some time, but it's not, that's a major communication link for South County emergency operations. And I think we need to keep that in focus and figure out how to, maybe you can check with the fire guys to see how we move that thing along.
Excuse me, Bob, so that, are you saying that that is for all of South County beyond Laguna?
There are yes, there are aspects, that's the 800 megahertz system that's up there. I mean, so it goes well beyond Laguna. It includes a lot of South County. And it's in a tower currently, and there were concerns about relocating it at the fire station because of emissions, and they were looking at alternative locations. But I think we need to, if we could sort of put some focus on that project and see, I don't know whether it's going to be tied up with, Fire Station 3 seismic improvements or whether we can relocate it, but I think it's important to focus on that one.
Does the county participate financially?
I don't know. It's part of the 800 megahertz system. And there's some of our communication stuff there, and there's 800 megahertz system. I don't know. We all participate in that. We've funded that over the years, but I don't know if they fund this particular project.
I have a meeting with Fire Chief and our new emergency coordinator, and so I'll add this to our agenda and make sure staff's up to speed on that so we don't overlook something we should be working on.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. So with that, we have the recommended project closures and reapportionments. We would be bringing that back as an action item at the March 11th mid-year budget adjustment, but we are seeking council input or feedback on staff's recommendations that are in that very small font detailed attachment of all of our projects. And then as we develop the upcoming 25-26 capital improvement program, we generally go to Planning Commission. We're planning on going there April 17th for general plan consistency. We have a budget workshop coming up in May where we'll be presenting the 10-year CIP to council, and then budget adoption will be in June. That concludes our presentation, and we're here to answer questions.
Yeah, I'll start. So at a high level, Mark, what happened? So it seems like we're really only spending a fraction of our CIP dollars. So I guess the first question is, what's the reason for that? And then expanding on that, because as more projects get added to the queue, it seems like the rate of dealing with these projects is going to have to increase, or else we're going to keep it'll be a bigger backlog. So help me understand how are we in the situation that we're in here?
I think the answer is probably a long answer with many reasons, but there are a few reasons projects in Laguna Beach take longer to deliver than other cities. One are the entitlements that we have to get for our projects. All of our capital projects are subject to design review, and that task is it's robust to go through the design review process with our planning commission. That's one area that can slow us down. And I'll just give one example. And it's on a recent project, the Anita Beach Access and Sewer Lift Station project comes to mind. That we go through design review with our planning commission. Takes a while to do that, and at the conclusion of that, project gets appealed to Coastal, where it's at for 15 months. And so in the meantime, we've appropriated funds for a project, and it's sitting on the books, and it just gets delayed while Coastal takes a look at it. Ultimately gets approved with conditions that require us to go modify the design, which we're in the process of wrapping up final design on that project. That's one example. Another example would be maybe the trash enclosure down at Lot 4 that, we go to Planning Commission for design review, and Planning Commission wants to dive into the aesthetics and forms a subcommittee, and they take 9 months to get through that process. So that's one area. There are many others where projects start the process over the years, and there's a little public pushback on the project, and so it gets shelved for a while. Maybe that was more common in previous years than it is today, but there's a little bit of that. I don't know if, Tom, you want to mention any of your experience?
Can I do a follow-up to the mayor's question?
Yeah.
When something has minimal entitlements, if there is a minimal entitlement project, how do you feel about the project delivery process in Public Works?
I see. So thanks for clarifying. We have a small amount of staff to do that. So we do 100% of our design is done by contract. We don't have in-house design. And so we have a small staff compared to maybe other cities, what I've analyzed, our neighbors in the previous cities I've worked at. You know, we have right now 3 project managers working for our CIP manager, and that's it. And so I would say that additional project management staff would help get projects out faster. We haven't historically had a large staff for that. We also have a pretty large underground utility assessment district program. We don't have a full-time person for that. Right now it's generally Pierre. And so I would say that probably staffing on the project management side would get things out faster if we had a more robust staff. I'm not requesting additional staff, but I think that would get things done a little faster. And if we did have a little more in-house design, that would be possible. But you know, we're housed across the street. We're usually doubled up in offices. There's not a lot of room, so it's tough to give a quick, succinct answer. I apologize.
So, I mean, on issues where we have regulatory barriers, I think the direction from this council has been very clear that, you know, maybe there's projects that don't need to go through design review, or it could be done in a way where we don't have multiple hearings. I think everyone up here has been on that page. And so it's incumbent on you to bring that forward of how we can reduce those regulatory barriers. On the staffing, I mean, I think we've added to the department in recent years. So I guess I'd like to understand how we move forward, because we're approaching our 100th year anniversary. We have a lot of deferred infrastructure. This is really going to be the theme, I think, of the next 10 years, is how do we make these investments? Because it's going to be about life and death in many cases, because of, you know, how critical it is to have seismically sound facilities. When Mark and I joined the council, the wastewater, it used to be the water quality department, merged under Public Works. As I'm looking at the budgets here, it looks like we've only spent a fraction of our wastewater capital. Is that part of the reason why we have delays, is because of dealing with having wastewater under Public Works? Is that something that has added to the burden of your department? And do you feel like you've been able to focus on it enough to be able to get these projects across the, you know, moving forward?
You know, I'd like an opportunity to maybe provide like a brief to the council on those, because I think there's several reasons projects have been delayed. I wouldn't say wastewater moving under Public Works, because it did come with the water quality department had one project manager, and that came with the department. The projects within the wastewater division and the wastewater capital projects, they generally have been, they're larger projects, and the largest one being the NCI Reach 5, which I don't think the original timeline estimate for that project was accurate. It involves micro tunneling through property we don't own, and there's a lot of regulatory issues running through Aliso Canyon. And so I don't think that has been an issue. I would say the lack of a wastewater master plan was an issue, which we're in the middle of that right now. That will help reprioritize, make sure we're putting the dollars in the right spot. But we have spent a fair amount of funds in the wastewater division delivering projects. But I don't have the specifics in front of me. I'd like to grab that and let the council know, because, you know, I hear the concern about getting projects done more timely, and I'd like to propose some options for doing that. I do know we have an upcoming workshop on design review, and I think capital project delivery is specifically listed as one of the items on there that I know I've talked with Dave about, and so I'm looking forward to that. But I do think there are probably some staffing options that I could propose.
Yeah, a briefing would be great. Appreciate it. Sue, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So Mark, I mean, this is a pretty long list, right? So how do you guys prioritize all your work?
You want to take a tough question, Tom?
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just curious. I mean, there's a pretty long list here.
I know, I appreciate it. I think I would say first off, I didn't put not every project, especially the older ones, have the fiscal year they were originally programmed in, but you'll see some projects were programmed, 15 years ago, and they stay forever. And so it is hard to then accurately prioritize the projects. That is true, because projects that are left on the books, they get worked on, then they get shelved for, a difficulty that comes up. And so we try to focus on the projects that are on the city council's strategic list. Those are the ones we try to deliver first. We have projects that are relatively routine in nature, like our slurry seal projects, and those are pretty easy to deliver. But then the other projects, yes, it's difficult. And as you can see, we recommend closing 50. There are projects on there that probably just shouldn't be on there due to changing priorities.
Just to follow on that, as far as priorities go, we do first focus on council initiatives, and then we'll look at safety related, so life safety type projects, and kind of continue down the list to where the projects that would tend to fall behind would be things that are not high on anyone's radar. They're not imminent threat to danger, life safety. So that's how those types of projects tend to fall down the list while we focus on the council initiatives and safety related.
But just a couple quick questions. First of all, thanks for doing this. I mean, I think it was a good effort. And my first question would be, a lot of these are just project complete, sweeping out a fund, right? So going forward, what would your plan be for this kind of review? How frequently would you do it?
Yeah, so going forward, as projects complete, in the fiscal year they complete, they will just come off the books at the end of the fiscal year. The sheer number of the projects, we wanted to include it as the mid-year to be transparent about what's in the CIP. And so going forward, if a project completes, unless we needed to reallocate those funds in the current fiscal year, we would just let those funds go back to fund balance at the end of the fiscal year. That's the plan going forward.
And then kind of the next step, as you note in here, some of these are no longer applicable or they're not feasible or whatever. Would you annually kind of do that sort of update? It seems to me like a big catch up right here. So do you envision doing that kind of on an annual basis?
Yes, as part of the CIP going forward annually. If a project got to a point where it was deemed infeasible, we would include that in the CIP as part of the budget process. Some of these projects are so old that, I'll be honest, there might not be anyone who remembers why that was originally programmed there. And so we research, especially for some of the drainage projects from, a master plan that's 20 years old now. Project had difficulties or there was a right-of-way constraint, and 10 years later, no work's been done on it. So we're recommending, hey, we're not going to finish design on this year, so why not deprogram those funds and finish a storm drain master plan and then re-advocate for the drainage CIP that's in that.
I did note that a number of these were pending drainage master plan, which can you just mention quickly where we are with that?
Sure. So it was the drainage master plan. The funds were budgeted in the current fiscal year to start that process. And so staff informs me RFP will go out in about a month. A little behind where I'd like to be, which seems to be a theme right now. But yeah, it's a little behind where I'd like to be. We are a man down once our city engineer retired. So that'll be going out to bid here in the next month. And I anticipate completion of that probably by the end of the year. And so in time for next year's CIP to start programming drainage projects. And the projects you see there, a lot of them wouldn't be reprogrammed, but there might be a couple that the drainage master plan confirmed were maybe still needed, or a modified version might still be needed.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned a upcoming meeting where we're going to discuss the design review and I think I know the answer to this, I'm just going to verify it. So at that meeting or workshop, whatever one it is, we're going to talk about schedules and deadlines for the design review process.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we're going to talk about things like how many meetings something could have, a goal setting for that, as well as for public for CIP projects, whether there's one visit at the Planning Commission and sort of one shot to make comments and then away it goes versus, hey, bring it back to the Planning Commission a second or a third time, which doesn't happen a lot, but happened a little bit.
Right. Okay. That's what I wanted to hear.
And for everybody's notes, that's March 12th, which I think is a Wednesday.
And one other quick question, Mark. Here on the promenade, it talks about bidding in fall of 2025. Is that going to work with our schedule?
We're going to try really, really hard, right? I mean, it depends on like if it gets appealed.
Well, excluding an appeal. Yeah, but I'm just wondering if we could, so if we were to award a contract, how long does it take the contractor to
mobilize?
Actually mobilize?
Mark.
Typically with the construction contract, we'll do an award, and it takes approximately a month to process the contracts, get those executed, and then following that period, a contractor can mobilize within another month, typically, depending on where we end up on the project. Some of the elements, some of the long lead items would be something where the contractor would need to get those orders in early. So we, in those cases, sometimes consider like a two-pronged notice to proceed, where we get them going on placing orders on materials. So there's avenues to take, but generally it could be a 2-month process.
Do you think it's possible to move this up to, instead of fall, to the end of summer?
Yeah, that would be extremely ambitious, and so hard for me to say we could without knowing what the final outcome is with the Planning Commission and what that next action is going to be.
Okay. Are you done?
Yeah.
Great. Hallie, do you have?
So you're telling us there's a chance?
There's always a chance.
We already went past, so we're gonna go to 4, and I want to take public comments, but Hallie, do you want to speak first, and then we can go to the public?
I just wanted to say thank you guys for putting this together. It's super helpful. And I mean, I think this kind of housekeeping is what we really want to see throughout the city. So I appreciate it.
Good. Okay. Sue, do you want? Well, okay, we'll open. Is there any public comment on this item?
Michael Wilkes, 690 Thalia Street. Last month, I had sent out to council what I think is a public safety issue on Thalia Street. The city manager's office had directed me to this meeting, that it would be included in your packets. I can see that you've got a huge list of things that you need to go through. This is more of a seed planting opportunity to talk a little bit about what I think would be a great capital improvement project. And I know it's got all the constraints that we've already heard about: right-of-way issues, power lines in the way that need to be undergrounded, private encroachments into the street. But I've lived there for 22 years, and this street is went from horrible for public, for people to walk on, to really life-threatening. With the increased number of parked cars on the street, now you have to walk in the lane of travel. And there's some pinch points along Thalia Street that are just getting more and more dangerous. And so right now, our capital improvement project on Thalia Street is to chip seal it basically every 10 years. And there's nothing being done for pedestrian safety. And so I just want to plant that seed. I've noted some of the dates that are coming up that you'll be discussing capital improvement projects and budgeting, et cetera. And I'll be sure to come back and ring the bell again. Thank you.
Michael, if you got the neighborhood fired up to underground, think of all the right of way you'd have for
Listen,
sidewalks.
I would love to partner, with that. I mean, if there's a feasible project, I would be the ringleader to go up and down the street and get signatures for undergrounding. I've already talked with Sue on this. There's not a lot of view obstruction from those power lines because the power lines are so high, and most of the homes on Thalia Street aren't view homes. But I think there's an opportunity there. There's different funding opportunities, get a sidewalk underground, fix this evacuation route so it is actually a real evacuation route, and create better ways to get to school, get to the beach, get to town, and it feeds all back into less cars going around in circles. So. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you at the next CIP workshop in May. Are there any other public comments on this? So we'll bring it back to council. I think, appreciate this coming forward. The priorities that and I don't know if, Jeremy, do we know how much money we have programmed for the solar microgrids?
500,000.
So I guess my preference, and when is that coming to us, that report?
Next meeting.
In terms, I think if it would be possible, I'd like to see if we can take some money from different pots that we have allocated now and in our CIP and put it towards that, because the tax credits that we're able to leverage for that could potentially not be here, next year or even in a shorter period. So that'd be my high level input. And then I just think that we should, as a department, as you come back to us, I think it'd be helpful to get a briefing on our wastewater and sort of our game plan going forward in conjunction with our wastewater master plan, but then also how can we make, what can we do as the city council in terms of what are the regulatory barriers that get in the way of making projects, take longer. I saw we have a procurement ordinance coming, which is good. And also, are there ways that we can be looking at like progressive design build? Can we change the way that we're not just doing the way that we've always done things, but look at, are there, procurement tactics that we could utilize that maybe can ensure that these projects are moving forward? Because I really do feel like we need to see more from as we move forward, because this list is going to only get longer because there's just so many needs in our community. So I'm hoping that we can have a realistic plan for how, our next steps. I know the city manager, you agree with that. And so that would be my high level input for how we move forward, because there's infrastructure I think is going to be critical over the next 10 years in Laguna Beach. Any other comments or questions? Good. Okay. Well, thank you again. Appreciate the work that you do, and we will. So we're gonna into closed session, and so again, I'll call the meeting of closed. We're gonna do a roll call again, Anne Marie, for closed session.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Kemp.
Here.
Councilmember Whalen.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Orgill.
Here.
Mayor Renati.
Here. Is there any public comment on our closed session agenda? Seeing none, we're going to adjourn in the one the items listed on the agenda, and I'm specifically going to call out the real property negotiations related to 2307 and 2535 Laguna Canyon Road with the agency negotiator as Dave Kiff and the negotiating party is the George Burkhart Trust. Are we good? Megan? Good. Okay. Thanks again, Mark and Tom.
Okay.